Hello, my dear students. In labor law second paper, today we'll discuss about the additional provisions regulating employment of women in a factory. So these additional provisions which are regulating employment of women in a factory that we'll discuss, which is given under the Factories Act 1948, as we have discussed number of important topics under the Factories Act 1948. So this is again one important topic, additional provisions regulating the employment of women in a factory. This is video lecture number 29, and which this Factory Act 1948 is given under unit 3rd of your syllabus. See, the gender equality allows women workers to work in factories with men. And considering this, the central and the state government has made additional provisions regulating the employment of women in a factory. So the additional provisions are, under different sections of Factories Act 1948. So once the woman is working, means in the factories with man, then the state government and the central government, both the governments have made certain provisions regulating the employment of women in a factory, and there are certain additional provisions are under the different sections of the Factories Act. So additional provisions which are regulating the employment of women in a factory, we can refer under the section 54 that no exemption shall be made on the female workers relating to the daily working hours, and there is a strict restriction on the women workers employment except between the 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. and as no women are allowed to employ between the hours of 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So this is the additional provisions and regulating the employment of women in a factory. And there are no changes in the shifts allowed. So no changes in the shifts allow the Factory Act except the after the weekly holiday or any other holiday. And this section 66 does not allow any female worker to work during late night hours. So this is again one very important additional provisions for female workers, those who are working in the factories under this Factories Act. The section 68 does not allow any female worker to work during late night hours. And the Mining Act 1952 prohibits the women employed in any part, which is below the ground level. The Factory Act also bounds the employer to provide the female workers 30 or more in numbers with crutches for their children aged from 6 years below. Means in a factory there are more 30 or more female workers, then employer is bound to arrange the crutch facility for their children. If the children are below the age of 6 years, and there should be a fixed rest period called rest interval for the women workers. This provision also there under the Factories Act 1948. And women workers shall be provided with the bathing and cleaning facilities to maintain health and hygiene at the workplace. So this is again one important provision under the Factories Act for the female workers. And there must be proper restroom for female, those who are working, working staff in a factory. And it allows women to take off when in need and also get some fixed maternity leave along with the weekly and festival holidays. And the maternity leaves are made paid. Also other leaves are paid for women working in the factories. So we can see, my dear students, and there are a number of provisions for the benefit of the female workers, or we can see there are additional provisions for the benefit of the female workers, those who are working under the in the factories. And there are other, exclusive rights, as we all are aware, for the women. Means apart from these additional provisions that women have a right to equal pay, the women have the right to dignity and decency, the female sexual assault victims have the right to keep their identity anonymous, and women have the right against workplace harassments. Women have a right against domestic violence. So apart from these additional provisions for the female workers, there are other rights also given in our society for the women, and women have the right to register virtual complaints. Women have the right to get free legal aid also. And women have right not to be arrested at night. Women have the right against being stalked, and women have a right to zero FIR, and women have the right against indecent representation. So apart from these additional provisions, what we have seen here under different sections of the Factories Act, we can see that there are other rights for the women, exclusive rights for the women. And Section 22, subsection 2 of the Factories Act prohibits women to work with the machinery in motion or in case of whatsoever. Also, Section 87 of the Factories Act 1948 empowers the state government to prohibit employment of women in dangerous operations. So we can see that these are the certain provisions for the safety, for the security of the female worker, those who are working in the Factories Act. And other important laws that protect women and their right, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act now 2006, or Special Marriage Act. Means apart from those additional provisions, what we are referring here under the Factories Act for the female workers, there are other laws also which protect the women in other ways. The rights of the women, whether it is Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, or the Special Marriage Act 1954, or the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961, or the Maternity Benefit Act 19, and I beg your pardon, it is 1961, and the Indian Divorce Act 1969, Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention Provision of Disability Act 2013. So we can see, there are a number of provisions for the safety, security of the female worker, those who are working in the factories, and there are certain other provisions also under other different laws. And there are exclusive rights also for the protection of for the safety of the female or the women in India. So this is all about the additional provisions which are regulating employment of women in a factory. Thank you so much, my dear students. I believe this deliberation will definitely help you. Thank you so much. Have a nice time. Take care. You go through this deliberation. This will definitely help you. Thank you.